Ron,
Morning, good morning, good morning.
Doug.
Okay. So have I shared my screen? Do you guys see this? You guys see the screen or not?
Yeah, we have it.
Yep, I
Okay.
can see it.
All right, great. So here's the next shaila. The next shaila is shaliach shekana la'atzma b'makom lemeshaleach ve'achar kach alu hamechirim. So that's the next shaila. Here's an interesting case. I send out a guy to buy merchandise, and he ends up buying it for himself instead of buying it for me. That ever happened to you, Moish? You ask someone to purchase something for you, and he okay, and uh, and then but then the prices go up. So the question is, okay, here's the shaila. Shalachli et hashachen sheyikne li shnei sugei machshirim letzorach avodati ki hem hayu b'mivtza miyuchad. I sent my neighbor to purchase two types of, it sounds like appliances for my work because they were on a special sale. Okay, v'natati lo kesef avor hakniya, and I gave him cash to buy it. B'makom liknot et shtei hamachshirim avuri, hu kana rak machshir echad bishvilo b'kesef she'heveiti lo. Instead of buying two of those appliances, he bought one appliance for himself with the money that I gave him. ולמחרת עלו המחירים ואי אפשר יותר להשיגם במחיר הזול. So, and the following day, I guess he must have given me back what he owed me, and he said I decided to buy it for myself. So, the next day the prices went back up, and I can't get it for that price anymore. So the two shilas are Ha'im hu chayav latet li et hamachshir shekana la'atzmo. Number one, is he obligated to give me the appliance and, for the cash that I gave him? And beis ulagabe hamachshir shu lo kana, ha'im hu chayav l'shalem li al ma ka'et ani tzarich l'shalem yoter avor kniyat hamachshir. For the second appliance that he never purchased. I mean, let's say I don't know, I'm a builder, and I sent my friend. I said there's a drill that's on sale, and there's a planing instrument that's on sale, or a sander, whatever. I don't know. Okay, a drill and a sander. Okay, and he bought the drill. Decided, it was such a good mitzvah. I decided to keep it for myself, and here's cash. So does he have to give me the drill? And also, does he have to pay me for the difference in the cost of the sander now that the sale is over? That's the question. Okay. Well, right. So he was negligent. He didn't take care of it.
Well, he came at night for the next day.
Oh, okay.
So we were good friends. Anyways, we split the difference, but I didn't want to. I gave him the order with pricing. I sold it based on what you had offered it for the week.
Yeah.
No, he had to rebuy more if he was out, but that's not my problem. He offered it based on price A, and then he came back and said, I can't do that anymore after I had pre-sold it based on this price that he gave me that week.
Yeah.
I understand why he wouldn't be responsible for doing what he was sent to do, and that's purchase.
Like, what's the argument of the other way?
Well, I mean, yes, he caused the loss. The question is that cause called, is it a grumma, right? Or is it a direct hezek? No, yes, it could be the guys did not act properly. But the question is he financially liable for having acted unethically? Okay. So let's take a look. B'chol Torah yesh lanu klal shlucho shel adam kimoto. We have a general rule in the Torah that a man's proxy is just like the man himself. Chutz mimi shesholach shliach lidvar avera, unless you send someone to do an avera. The ba'avera lo omrim shlucho shel adam kimoso. Because when it comes to averas, we don't say that a man's proxy is like the man. Mishum shomrim l'shliach divrei harav divrei hatalmid divrei mishomim. V'lachein ha'ma'aseh mityaches lashaliach. It says, in the case where I send someone to do an Aveira, then we say, well, why did the Shaliach do it? He could have listened to Hashem and he could have listened to Hashem's servant, right? Why did he choose to listen to Hashem's servant? It must be that he's not acting on behalf of the man who sent him, but he's acting on his own accord. And therefore, the only time when we don't say shlucho shel adam kamoso, that a man's proxy is like the man, is when the proxy is going to do an aveira. You have to assume he's doing it independently. Okay, aval adam shenatan kesef lachaver liknot lo chayfetz mesuyam. V'hachayfetz matza chen be'enei hashaliach. You know, we have stories in the Gemara where I send someone to be makadesh an isha, and he goes ahead and marries her himself, right? So, like, what? Give me the woman back. You can't do that, right? But here I gave someone cash, buy a specific object. And the object now is desired by the shaliach. And then he bought it with his own money. Zacha hashaliach b'chayfetz ela shehu nahag minhag shel ramos. So the halacha is that the shaliach, by law, has acquired the object for himself because he has mentally changed his focus from his dispatcher to himself, and he didn't do what was right. He acted unethically. Now, acting unethically may be different from whether or not he's chayiv to pay, if there's now a fluctuation in price. Aval imhu halach liknot et hachayfetz. So, what happens, however, if a guy goes to buy an appliance? He tells the seller, I'm buying it for my friend Yankel. And the seller says, you're buying this for Yankel? That no good, son of a gun? I'm not selling my wares to Yankel. I don't want to have anything to do with Yankel. And then the shaliach says, you know what? I'd like to actually buy this for myself. In that case, he should notify the dispatcher, Yankel, that, the seller really doesn't want to sell it to you. And then he can buy it for himself. Aval im hashaliach lo yachol lahodia lamishaleach v'im yamtin ad sheyodia lo olul mishu acher liknot et hachayfetz mutar l'shaliach liknot la'atzmo. If the shaliach does not have the ability to notify Yankel, the dispatcher, and if he waits until going back to speak to Yankel, someone else might buy it because it's a limited item, so then the shaliach can buy it himself, and there's no breach of ethics. In other words, the only time there's no breach of ethics when you buy something or you do something for yourself instead of doing it for the dispatcher is if the seller doesn't want to sell it to the dispatcher. The seller doesn't want to sell it to the mishaleach. So in that situation, you're not doing anything unethical by buying it for yourself, because you're not able to buy it for Yankel. The only thing you can do is to buy it for yourself. It could be you go to the local makolet. I don't know, or you go to that could be one situation where you're just having.
Where did you get all this money from? You're not rich enough to buy this.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I'm buying it for so-and-so."
Yeah.
You can fashion a case.
Yeah.
But I'm confused as to why he can't just say, "Okay, I'll buy it for myself," and then still keep his word and give it to the person who commissioned him to buy it.
Well, because he's lying.
Okay, but now he's breaking his sworn agreement to be a shliach. So I mean, they're two wrongs. I'm not sure.
Who says that's for an agreement?
So in a situation where the seller will not sell to his dispatcher, there's no breach of ethics. he was sent to buy something that the seller is not willing to sell. So at that point, he can no longer fulfill his proxyship. And so the only other recourse that he has is either to come home empty-handed or to buy it for himself. Either way, he's not betraying Yankel because there's no way for him to get it for him. So
maybe the young knew that wouldn't be able to buy himself. That's why he sent this. Because he knows that the buyer wouldn't sell it to him, so he's sent someone as a cover.
it could be, but I don't see anything wrong with the shaliach buying it for himself and then afterwards turning around and selling it to Yankel. There's nothing wrong with that, So I don't know.
The market price has gone up.
Well, if the market price goes up, so then he would be within his rights to sell it for a higher price. But anyway, so up until now, he's only told us about the hypotheticals. He's not addressing the case at hand, which is where this is not the case. The seller doesn't care who he sells it to. And so Amnam kol adinim hanal shayachim rak hashliach kana bekesef shalo v'lachein hu zacha b'chayfetz. Up until now, we've been talking about where the shaliach uses his own cash, and therefore he has a right to acquire the object for himself. Avol benidon didan. Remember, what was the case that was presented? It's where the dispatcher Yankel gave the shaliach money. It says, here, use this cash to buy these two appliances. Kevan shashliach kana la'atzma bekesef shel hamishaleach. Since the shaliach was using the money of the mishaleach, of the dispatcher, so then when he bought it for the mishaleach, and it automatically becomes the property of the mishaleach because he was using his money. Now, what is this based on? That's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. So if we were to take a look, it's in Simin Kuf Pei Beis. In the Shulchan Aruch, let's just take a quick look in Safaria and have a look. See, Kuf Pei Beis in Choshen Mishpat. $182. Okay, so we'll just share this for just a moment. So, Ketzad Nasa Shaliach, Ota'a Vikana Biyoker Vim Avar Al Das Mishalcho. So there's a whole siman in Shulchan Aruch about how a person becomes a proxy in the first place, and what the halachas are if he makes a mistake in his proxyship, or if he pays more than what he was supposed to pay for the object, or if in any other way he violates the instructions of his being a shaliach, of being a proxy. It says, "Hinei b'chol davar shlucho shel adam kamoso chutz milidvar aveira dekaimelan en shliach lidvar aveira." He says, so the Ramah introduces this siman in Shulchan Aruch by saying the same thing that Reb Sharaga had started off with, that we always say that a man's proxy is like himself, except when he tells the proxy to do an Aveira. But that's only when the shaliach is an adult and is liable for his own behavior. If I send a child to do an Aveira, to steal, let's say, for example, I send a kid like, that story, Oliver Twist, Fagin, right? I send a kid to go in and steal, to pick pockets. So the halacha is that I'm liable for the child's theft. That's an interesting exception to Ein Shliach Lidvar Aveira, because the child doesn't have his own das. It's like sending a monkey to go and pickpocket. Okay, so anyway, so let's take a look at the first halacha. Ha'omer lishluch otzei umachor li karka umetaltalin o kineli. If I send a proxy and I say, sell a piece of property for me, or I tell him to buy a piece of property for me, or chattel, harei mocher b'lokeach va'oselo shlichuso v'chol ma'asav kayamin. So then the shliach acts on behalf of the dispatcher. Ve'ein ha'osa shliach tzarech kinyan. Furthermore, you don't need to make a kinyan with the shaliach, a formal kinyan. All you need are verbal instructions. Below edim, you don't need witnesses. Ela ba'amira ba'alma beino levein chaver. All you need is just words to create a shaliach situation. Ve'ein tzarech edim ela legalos hadavar im kafar echad mehem. The only purpose of having a shaliach is if one of them denies that this relationship ever got started. And the Ramah says similarly, and therefore the Ramah says, if I dispatch someone and I say, if you buy this, I'll go in with you 50-50, I can't back out because he's now become my shaliach. I've dispatched him just with my words alone. And I'm legally obligated now to fulfill my word and to give him and to pay for 50% of the purchase. Now, over hashaliach al das mishalcho lo asaklum. If the shaliach violates his proxyship, then his act is null and void as far as the dispatcher being in any way liable. Davka shahudia shehu shliach shel ploni. But that's only if he notifies others that he is acting as a shaliach. Okay, so first of all, what are we deriving from here? So what we're deriving from here is that anytime a person acts as a proxy, he is acting as the hands, the eyes, and other organs of the dispatcher. Whatever the shaliach does is a legal transaction on behalf of the dispatcher. I'm not sure how he sees that when you use the money of the dispatcher, then automatically the dispatcher has acquired the object. I'm not sure how you see that from Sif Aleph, but it seems to be a logical statement. Now, so for the first shaila, it's fairly clear. There's no ambiguity. When I use the dispatcher's cash to buy the appliance, and I ended up buying it, but then I changed my mind and I want to keep it for myself, I have no halachic right to do so because I used his money and I was assigned as his shaliach. Whatever I purchased for the dispatcher, not for myself. Halachically, it is now, as soon as it gets into my hands, it's now considered to be the object that is owned by my dispatcher, by Yankel. It is not owned by me. And so if I were to keep it for myself, I'd be stealing. And therefore, the dispatcher, Yankel, has every right to take me to Beis Din and coerce me to relinquish the object because it didn't belong to the shaliach. Really, he's stolen it if he wants to keep it for himself.
Secular law, they'd analyze it as principal and agency, which is a fiduciary duty. And the fiduciary owes a duty to subordinate his interest to that of his principal. The court would impose a trust on the object in favor of the principal and compel him to give it back.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There you go. So just different terminology, but I appreciate your pointing that out. So the when you use the word principal, you mean the mishaleach.
The principal and the person to whom the shaliach is
the agent. Yeah.
The principal agent relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Now, the first shaila was answered. The shaliach has to give the appliance, the drill that he bought. It definitely belongs to the mishaleach, to the principal. Legabe hashe'ela hasheniya, ha'im tzorech l'shalem lamishaleach al ma shetzorech liknot ha'machshir biyoter yakar. Now, what about the sander? Okay, the guy never ended up buying the sander, and now Yankel has to go out and pay more. He's got to pay 25% more because the sander is no longer on sale. So can he hold the shaliach liable? Why didn't you use the cash that I gave you to buy the sander also? So now I'm going to have to pay an extra 25%. I'm taking you to Beis Din, I expect you to pay me. So he says, Hine Moran Pasak b'Shulchan Aruch, She'i efshar lechayev et hashaliach al ha'efseid. He says, there you cannot hold the shaliach liable for any loss that the mishaleach incurs as a result of his failure to perform his shlichus, his proxyship. B'hatam bazeh, if we wanted to take a look at the Shulchan Aruch for a second, here, just give me a moment. What does the, it's in Kuf Pei Gimel. Okay, let's take a look. This is Kuf Pei Beis. Let's go now to Kuf Pei Gimel. Hanosein ma'os lishlucho liknot lo schora yedua. If I give money to a shaliach to buy a particular piece of merchandise, below likacha, and he fails to purchase it, so ein lo alav elatar umos. So all you have are complaints, meaning that statement is found many times in halacha. Ein lo alav elatar umos means you have a grievance, but it's not an actionable grievance. You can't sue the guy. Yeah, he did. Right. If he's a paid agent, so that would change his status. But here, if I just gave him money to purchase something for me, and I gave him instructions to purchase it, and he fails to do so, I'm not sure if I don't know whether in halacha paying him for his services would make a difference as long as he gives me back the money that I paid him for it. Not sure, unless there was a contractual agreement and he's bonded and all of that stuff, that could change it. But even if I'm paying him, Hal, I'm not convinced that would change it. I gave him, let's say, 150 bucks. And I said, the object costs $100. You buy it for me. You can keep the 50 bucks for yourself for your time and effort, right? So he comes back the next day, gives me back the $150. He says, no, I didn't have time to do it yesterday. Sorry. Here's your 150 bucks back. Okay. So, ein lo alav elatar umos. Can't sue the guy. He acted in bad faith because he said he would do it and he never did it. But it's not actionable. You can't sue him for it. Ve'im yadua shalokach b'mot hamishaleach motzi mimenu bal karcha. But this was the sifit. It's a misprint. He meant to say simin kuf pei gimel, not simin kuf pei beis. But if it is known that the shaliach purchased the item and just kept it for himself, and he's just giving you back the cash and saying, sorry, didn't have time, but in reality, he did have time, but he liked it so much, he decided to keep it for himself. So then, motzi mimenu bal karcha. You can actually force the guy to give it over to you. Okay. But you have to know that he used your money for it. Okay. So he says, so the hatam bazeh. So what's the reason why this is not an actionable offense? Kevin sheyesh lo din mevatel kiso shel chavero shapater. He says, because if I just cause you to not be able to profit, okay, that's not actionable. So what is this halacha? Mevatel kiso shel chavero pater, right? Mevatel kiso means I cause that you don't make a profit. Okay? So, yeah. Or that I'm going to have to pay more, right? Exactly. Avol yesh la mishaleach alav tarumos shagarim lo hefsid. Does the mishaleach, the principal, does he have a grievance? Yes, he has a grievance. Because had I known that you weren't going to buy it for me, I would have sent somebody else to buy it for me. I trusted you. I relied on you. And you betrayed me. You failed me. Okay, yeah. So there's drama. There's bad feelings. But you can't take him to Beis Din for that, okay? Because it's a type of grumma. It's a causative act. Okay? Same thing in secular law.
Lost profit head of that. Sometimes it's just both. So it's not necessary, it's kind of future looking. So the grandma, I think it's called loss of super remote.
Yeah. Okay. So the Kosav HaNesivus, the Dafkein Hu Shaliach Bechinam. This is Hal's question. The Nesivus writes that this is only true if the guy's not being compensated to be a Shaliach. Lo Meshalim Lo Asanezek, V'yesh Lo Alav Rak Tar Umos. Only when he's doing it without compensation do we say that the dispatcher, the principal, all he has is a grievance, but it's not actionable. Aval imhu mekabel schar al hashlichus, chayiv l'shalim lo es menias harevach shenigram lo. Then, because he was being paid for his professional services, is acting as a proxy, and he failed in his proxyship, then he would have to pay him whatever loss the principal incurred as a result of his failure to act. Gemosha Hagmara Omeres Bava Metzia Im Over Velo Avid Ashalem B'meitva. There's a phrase in the Gemara that if I do not bring this for you, because you've hired me to schlep something for you, to get it for you, I will pay you whatever loss you incur as a result of that failure. So V'alkein B'nidon Didan Im Hashiliach Asa Shlichuso B'chinam Patr Milashalem. And therefore, in our case, the guy who failed to purchase the sander, he says, if he was not getting paid to do it, but he was just doing the guy a favor, so then, and he fails to do it, so he's going to be putter from having to pay for any loss that Yankel incurred because he missed out on the sale. Aval yesh lo meshalech alav tarumos, he has a grievance, he has a fair grievance against his friend, like, you failed me. But vim nishlach bischar chayiv l'shalim lo ala hefsed. But Hal was right. If the person was being dispatched for compensation, he was hired to act as a proxy, and he fails to do it, and as a result, the Mishaleach lost out on an opportunity to get something for less money, and now he has to pay more money for the same object. So then it turns out that the Shliach will have to pay him for whatever loss he incurred. Okay. Yeah, he wanted to finish watching the game before he went. Yeah. So you've described the situation where it's a gray area. The guy thought that he had plenty of time to get to buy it because he knew how far away the store was, but he got stuck in a car accident, and so by the time he got to the store, it was closed or whatever. You could create a number of scenarios. So in a case where the guy acted in good faith and he really thought that he had time to buy it, and it turns out that he couldn't get it, so then I don't think that the Mishaleach can have any legal claim against him, even if he's being paid for it, because he can say, listen, I did act the way that you told me. I thought I had time. Now, if you feel like Moish, you feel the guy, well, you should have gone right away, and if you would have gone in the morning instead of the afternoon, you would have been able to buy it. Okay, but still, I mean, was that part of the dispatch instructions? Was he told explicitly, you need to go in the morning because otherwise they may be sold out if you go in the afternoon? So a lot of it will depend on the details. Okay, we'll hold it here for today. Have a great day, everybody.